Good morning, good morning, good morning. Season
Oh,
two, season two of the Krewe NFC Roundtable. I'm your host, Mike Sidoris. With me is my co-host, or basically just the other host, Eye Candy Andy. Andy, how you doing today, man?
mediocre at best.
Uh, what can you expect? I mean, look at you, Bears hat. I mean,
At least I'm not a Packers, 49ers, Buccaneers, or Cowboys fan. That's all I have to say.
yeah, man. So I didn't know if I was going to make it on today's show, or I've been fighting COVID for about a week now. Please, everyone, know COVID is still real. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. I'm not telling everyone to go get vaccinated. Vaccinations do help. But anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Wear masks if you can, and if not, take your own risk. But anyway, let's talk football. So, lots been going on. Season 2 is going to be hopefully bigger and better than last year. We're still feeling our way through the early parts of the season last year. Started out as a straight Bucks show, transitioned into what we have today. So, what's going on, Andy? Anything going on in Chicago land area or anything? You want to go straight to the NFC North, or
Sure, we can go NFC North.
let's kick it that way then? And it's all you.
So we got a few things going on actually in the NFC North. It's actually kind of interesting because it's been relatively quiet, I guess you can say, but it's been an active quiet. So you might have a deal here, deal there. For example, I'm just throwing this out, of course, the Bears. Most storied franchise in NFL history. But anyway, they actually got this one guy. Let me see. A New England Patriot via trade for 2014 seventh round draft pick. Oh, yeah. Mr. I don't even know how to spell his name or say his name. Keel?
Nikhil Henry?
Yeah, Harry.
So, Harry, yeah.
One of the best things about that is the fact that they're still actually addressing their needs. And of course, they needed another wide receiver, and he's definitely a solid number two.
You know what's funny about him? He had first round draft potential. I don't think he was a slam dunk for the first round for the Patriots by any means, but he definitely has the talent. He just got to put it together. He's got to have the opportunity to show it. Jason Nelson, thanks for coming in, man. How's it going, buddy? That's my brother from another. but yeah, I mean, he played well enough in college. He just didn't do anything in New England. What do you have, like 7 catches? I mean, it wasn't like that.
But again, this is the same thing that we're talking about before. Is he a product of the actual system itself? Here he would have that opportunity to be able to be, even if he's not the number one, he would have an opportunity certainly to be a number one. Because who else do we have? Mooney? Mooney's a good player, don't get me wrong, but I mean, is he that number one that you're going to be throwing 20 times to?
You know what? I mean, Mooney could put up 1,000 yards this year. I don't think that's far fetched. With Chicago, they're not that you're going to see out in front a lot. I don't think. And I know that's terrible to say for you being a Bears fan, but you got Justin Fields who can definitely throw the long ball, right? He definitely has the arm strength. Now I think you're putting him with a receiver that can actually stretch the field for him. You got Mooney on one side. You're going to have Henry on the other. Henry's got range. He's long. You know what I mean? So hopefully you'll see that come to fruition later in the year. Maybe they'll start stacking some wins together for you.
Could be. And again, first season, new coach, new offense, new defense, new special teams, new everything. So really, I think the Bears are going to end up being a little bit better than what people are, of course, saying. Oh, they're going to go, 0-75. Okay, fine. Cool. I get it.
No, I've never said they'd go 0-0.
However, you got to think about it like this. Now, they are going to be playing teams like, Detroit, which, in the past has been like an easy victory. They're going to be a little tougher, but that still might be a W. Green Bay, you have the aging quarterback there, who has had his issues there in Green Bay lately. Your quarterbacks there, for example, or your receivers there, for example, that kind of thing. I'm sure Brian touched on it. Did a great job last week, as you said.
Yeah,
I'm sure
absolutely.
I'm sure he touched on it a little bit last week. How the Packers, of course, he of course is always going to say that they're going to win the division. I of course know the truth, and the Bears of course are going to win. But you do have some. You do have some people who are saying, okay, you know what? They're definitely going to be better than we thought, but they're not going to be 10 wins, and I can live with that.
Yeah, no,
500 for a first year everything. I can live with that.
I really think you might see the Bears creep into that number 2 spot. I think looking at it realistically, this is Minnesota's year to take that division. If they don't do it this year, I don't think they're going to do it. I think you're going to see Kirk Cousins on his way out. You're going to see them in a rebuild. Chicago, like I told you, 3-year plan. Chicago should be on top of that division in 3 years. They're going to creep up on a lot of people this year, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. With the offensive line, which is vastly improved from last year, and you throw any quarterback in there with a good offensive line, and you're going to be able to get – think about it. Even if you throw Kirk Cousins in there, even like some old decrepit, quarterback from Tampa Bay, you might be able to do good things if you have an offensive line that can protect or run block.
I'm not even going to touch that, but let's look at it this way.
Yeah, I was expecting something. Come on.
But seriously, on all seriousness, if Kirk Cousins finds his way out next year in Minnesota, is he an option for the Bears if Justin Fields struggles this year? Is that somewhere, you being a Bears fan, is that somewhere you're like, well, that might work? Or is it totally out of the question?
You really can't say never. Never say never, of course, simply because we had a Super Bowl MVP that was like, third straight. And we had a Cincinnati Bengal quarterback that actually came in and, anyway, neither one of them are here. And so you have a few other quarterbacks that came in, of course. And so, no, you never say never, but I don't know if he necessarily would fill the system that Eberflus actually has. He very well may.
We don't even know what system Eberflus is putting in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, we could conceivably, look to, upcoming shows to be able to actually show people, differences in different type of offenses and defenses and things like that.
Right.
But if by chance Fields struggles, I think they're going to be looking to possibly find some sort of a veteran quarterback to be able to come in and hopefully guide him in the right direction. He's your franchise.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things, this kid's like, 12 years old and stuff like that. He should be there for 10, 15, 20 years, that kind of thing.
So what's funny about that is you got an aged veteran quarterback that just retired this year, right? He's played on just about every damn team in the NFL. But Fitzmagic is still out there. And he could definitely – there's few quarterbacks smarter than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he's solid. He's great for 5 games. You know what I mean? And then he hits his wall. But he could definitely show someone like Justin Fields the ropes of the NFL. Because right now I don't think he has that in the backup there.
That's true. And even if he can't, he could certainly show Justin Fields how to grow a beard.
Play some Jumanji or something.
But he definitely has something. And you're right, he's a 5 game, so you can't put all those 5 games together because then you got 1 game here, 1 game there, maybe throughout the season. But we'll see how it goes because, like I said, I think the Bears are definitely going to be a lot better than what people think. I don't necessarily think they're going to be officially. They're going to win the division.
Over under 8 games.
Unofficially, they're going to do better than what people think.
Right. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Over under right now, Bears win 8 games.
I can see 8 games.
Okay.
I can definitely see 8 games. So I would say even money on that one.
Gotcha.
Do I see 9 games? Maybe.
Right on.
But think about it. If you're a diehard Bears fan and things like that, even back in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff, You never, actually, yes. I should put like a little. I should put a little bear seat on there too. As long as you beat the Packers there and at home, your job is safe. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Lovey made a career out of it.
Absolutely. They got rid of him. He was a coach.
So
But let's finish up with June. Some of the different transactions the Bears did during June. They signed, of course, defensive back Jason Stanley. They placed offensive lineman Dakota Dozier on reserve injured. They released Jeremiah Acho. And then they signed, of course, defensive line Mike Peddle. See, now that's the other thing, too. Now, the Bears' defense is going to be, I don't want to say a question. They have players that have actually done really well over the last, couple of years. Roquan Smith, for example. And then, of course, you have that other fellow that had, almost 20 sacks. And Robert Quinn. And so, you have some players that are going to give you absolutely solid performances throughout the year.
I saw Roquan was linked to trade deals with someone. I want to say it was the Chiefs. I'm not 100% on that. Or no, it's the Chargers that I saw he was linked to trade deals on.
It could be. Him and Khalil Mack were actually pretty close friends from what I remember reading.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but that's what I had read.
Mm-hmm.
But you lose Akeem Nicks, right? I mean, he was injured often, but he's solid in your interior when he played.
Yep. That was actually probably one of the biggest pains is the fact you had that clugger. I mean, literally he gave you actual numbers.
Right.
But he also took up 2 offensive linemen.
Well, in that defense, the Bears run, that's his job.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not going to go into hard coaching technique here or anything, but your job as that defensive lineman in that defense is to pick up blockers and allow your linebackers to fill gaps and roam. And that's why the Bears have been so successful for so long, because they've had the good linebackers behind that front four that could roam and do what they need to do. That's going to be big shoes to fill there in Chicago. I mean, that defensive line is going to be a big overhaul, I think, up there right now.
Right. Unless they're going with something like like the Chargers, where you have a bunch of really athletic defensive linemen that give you that actual production. I mean, that's fine and dandy. It's just a complete different style of defense.
Right.
You have like an Aaron Donald, for example, that's going to be able to not only give you serious production, but also, you have to have 1 or 2, possibly even 3 offensive linemen that have to keep an eye on him just so he doesn't disrupt everything else.
Dude, that man eats Pac-Man pellets for breakfast. He's always supercharged. He's unbelievable talent. But anyway, we don't talk about AFC.
Relatively short, that kind of thing. Ridiculously strong.
Yeah.
Football IQ, out the ceiling here. It's just one of those things. If the Bears were to bring him in, that would be kind of cool.
All right, let's leave Chicago.
So let's leave Chicago and go back to Chicago. Now, we unfortunately have to go to that team a little bit further north. How do you want to say their name? We'll call him Brian.
Packers.
Instead of Brian's song. Oh, by the way, shout out to James Conn, of course, passed away. Playing, of course, that Brian song.
Sonny's gone.
Well, if you go with that character, he's been gone for a long time.
Anyway.
With the Green Bay Packers, in June, they actually signed a fellow by the name of Benkert, quarterback. So I guess he's supposed to be the heir apparent.
Oh, my God.
I think there was another backup in Green Bay.
I'd love to tell you the answer.
Well, yeah. He was Aaron. His name is Aaron Rodgers. He was a backup in Green Bay for a while.
You know what's funny, right? You go on these Green Bay Packer pages, and you would not believe the disdain for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, trust me, I'm a Bucs fan. I've seen my fill of terrible quarterback play, right? Being a Bears fan, you would die for 3 seasons with a quarterback with the potential of Aaron Rodgers. And in Green Bay, I don't know if they're so spoiled or he's just hit them so the wrong way. The disdain you see in the groups is unbelievable. But where are they going to go from there, though? I mean, he's there this year. Next year is a quagmire for them. They did get the young receivers to actually give them some help this year, I think. Nothing major. They didn't go in the first round, but
right. I think one of the things that actually probably – so as much as I hate to okay. So the Packers have had – because I don't like normally talking good about the Packers. So the Packers have had a successful model simply because of a couple of things. One, consistency. Similar like Pittsburgh, where you have like one coach who's been there for about 1,000 years now. You had one quarterback who had been there for about 1,000 years now. They had that consistency where you had a quarterback who knew the system inside and out. Certainly a lot better than the coaches. You had wide receivers that, even though they weren't like your number one type receivers, like a CeeDee Lamb, for example, or like even like a Steve Smith Jr. Your senior, those type Moss, they were actually consistent on the plus side to actually give you not only excellent yardage, but some serious touchdown potential there for anytime they touched the ball. Offensive line was always solid. Defense was always solid. They had that consistency because they had the same personnel for years, right. And it was a working thing. The team concept. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers, of course, he got his nose kind of twisted up in last couple of years. And
to be fair, that nose is pretty damn big.
Yes.
Okay.
Next thing you know, you were paying him $50 million a year. There's no more team concept there.
Right. What?
It's just one of those things.
So they
claimed Gabe Burkick off of waivers from the Vikings. He was actually a kicker, and also Dominic Eberle. He was a kicker that they actually released. So it looks like they're trying to solid up their, if anything, they're trying to solid up their only scoring potential in the kickers. Let's move to your friends Detroit. Now, Detroit actually did a few things. They signed defensive end Josh Paschal. They also signed tight end Devin Funchess. Now, the interesting thing about that is he actually might be a big part of their offense.
Yeah.
Simply because, their offensive line is actually suspect right now, kind of like the Bears. The Bears, they might end up being a lot better than we thought. But Detroit has the same issues with not only with pass protection, if you remember last year, and also with run blocking. So one of the things that they actually had to rely on, of course, was their tight ends. Dipping and dunking down to their wide receivers and things like that, but you definitely need your tight end. So he might actually end up being a huge part of their offense. And they also placed cornerback Jermaine Waller on reserve retired list. Now,
you're just waiting on paperwork from him then.
Right. Your other teams up north, your other fab with your buddy Kirk Cousins. They signed quarterback Caleb Evans. They signed OLB Andre Mintz. Now, I can definitely see they needing linebackers. Their defense, I think, probably could have been a little bit better from last year. It needed to be. They waived kicker, of course, Gabe. He, of course, is now in Detroit.
Detroit, sorry.
Defensive line, Jonathan Bullard.
So,
and also they also signed wide receiver Albert Wilson and waived running back AJ Rose Jr.
So Minnesota, right? Like I said, I feel they're in position to win this division. I don't know what your thoughts on it, but I really think this is the year that they've got to do it. You got Justin Jefferson, who's ranked the number 2 receiver in the league. You've got Adam Thielen, who was honorable mention for top 10. And you've got Dalvin Cook, who was a second-ranked running back in the NFL last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all you need is a defense, right? I mean, you've got a quarterback that's not prone to costing you the game, but he's not prone to winning you the game. I mean, his famous rant against the Bucs was, "You like that?" Yeah, when he came back and won from behind. But he's not known for that per se, right? You got a game manager there. So really your offense is gonna run through Dalvin again. I mean, and just hopefully Jefferson and Thielen can work their way open, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now Dalvin Cook is, I think, going to be their guy. He is getting a little bit older now, and you know how as running backs go, how well that works.
Oh, absolutely.
You're 26 years old and you're over the hill.
You buy a new car with brand new tires, you got to change them out eventually, right?
Exactly.
So
just how prevalent is he going to be on your offense? You're absolutely right about Kirk Cousins. It's one of those things where he absolutely has a fantastic game, but then he comes back and he throws for 110 yards.
Right.
So,
inconsistency is his consistency.
Right.
But Vikings are linked to bringing Kyle Rudolph back. Supposedly the Bucs and Vikings both have interest in the veteran free agent tight end. Kyle Rudolph was a captain in Minnesota. He was at one time their go-to receiver / tight end, sound blocker. He'd help that new developing offensive line. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? You think Kyle Rudolph ends up in Minnesota again, or is he?
Sure. What the heck? Why not?
I mean, do you see that being a value for them? I mean, definitely the locker room. It's a plus, right?
Yeah, leadership-wise, you're absolutely right about that. With Minnesota, who exactly do you have as your wide receivers? And you have a quarterback that's going to be able to consistently get the ball to those receivers.
Right. You got Jefferson and Thielen.
Okay. So now you have Dalvin Cook, who's always going to be your pressure release, on the flats and stuff like that. So who else do you have?
Yeah, their tight end last year was kind of unproven. He was shaky at best. I think he needs the tutelage of someone like Kyle Rudolph that's been in the league for a long time, that's been successful in the league. They can really use him there. I hope they don't get him, but I think he might end up back in Minnesota, back at home, and he might retire a Viking.
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly make sense. That would absolutely make sense. They're certainly not going to get Kelsey from the Chiefs because didn't he just sign a multi-gajillion-dollar deal?
Right. So,
but I think it would be a good fit for actually both. He actually gets to. You're absolutely right. Stay home, play a little football, and next thing you know, he can run off into the sunset.
Well, I mean, he
as a local hero,
right? He definitely could come back home and at least go to a team that's finally in contention, right? A team that maybe Super Bowl aspirations is a bit far fetched, but definitely have a shot at winning the division. I mean, at least it's some way to go out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
even if you were to actually make it through the division as the number one, the playoffs are you're going to have to play some serious teams.
Right.
Even if you're talking about Tampa Bay, for example, they're still Tampa Bay. They might have one or two horrid games, but then they're going to show you why they're still, Tampa Bay in this particular context. Even with Gronk, not necessarily wanting to play right now.
Right.
It's one of those things where you're flipping through the channels. You're like, why didn't you catch? You could have. Why didn't you? Yeah, I'll be there this week. That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, what else you got up in the north, sir?
That is essentially it for the north. As far as transactions are concerned, there isn't anything really majorly pressing, nothing like that. So I guess we can shoot it off to the east, south, west.
We'll go south. I mean, the other guys are busy. I didn't have much time to do research on the east and the west, but we can definitely touch on it here and there. I'm going to take us down south, and we'll go through some position battles in camp and things like that. Everyone knows about the retirements and Baker finding a new home. So let's just go south. All right, now we're in the south, heading down to Carolina. Everyone knows the biggest news in Carolina is that Baker Mayfield has finally found a home. It's a no-brainer for Carolina, really, right? You convince a team to pay majority of his salary, $10.5 million. The Browns will be paying Baker Mayfield not to start for them. How is that a bad thing? So now you're on the hook for what? 5.5 or something like that to finish out the contract this year, and then you have the option of signing Baker next year. But you're looking at a quarterback battle that really, is there a winner in this situation? You got Sam Darnold going against Baker Mayfield. Darnold has been in the offense for just over 7 months, whereas Baker's come in, finding a new home, having to find some chemistry with the receivers, one of which doesn't want anything to do with him, apparently, with Anderson. As soon as he was signed, saying he's not his quarterback. That's right, Ryan. That's 100%. This is where I'm going. I really do think it's Baker's job. You don't move like that. You don't, wait as long as you did to make that move unless you have the idea to start Baker Mayfield, right? I mean, it's good fodder. Put your team front and center in the Newsweek for a while. Baker's got all the intangibles to be a great quarterback in the NFL. But he does have a touch of Johnny Manziel in him. Too brash, too cocky. Hasn't done much in the NFL. He did take the Browns to the playoffs, which is honestly hasn't been done in 20 years, something like that. So he does have that in his hat. Then you got Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's coming from, he had a decent season last year, nothing to write home about, nothing great. He was a starter. He has chemistry with the receivers, I guess. Nothing, but once again, nothing you would be like overconfident in, right? But now you got a healthy McCaffrey come into the fold. Week 1 against the Browns, I really think you got Baker Mayfield starting that game. I mean, you feel otherwise? I mean,
there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't bring in somebody like that. First off, you're right. You're paying him, pennies. So why wouldn't you start him? Even if he falls flat, whatever the case is, you're absolutely right about that aspect. Also, is the fact that you have a huge PR. Hey, look, we got this guy. He was embattled, and embittered there in Cleveland, who brought in another quarterback, which we'll get to eventually. But then you also have your running back, who is supposedly healthy.
Right.
For how long? Again, quarterback age.
No, running back age. Yeah, I get you. But Ryan said, if he can beat out Sam Darnold, I don't think Sam Darnold is. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Cleveland roster in the way. Right. No, you're right. Baker's very abrasive, to say the least.
And that actually brings up another question that we actually asked. Actually, I think it was sometime last year. Is the fact: would you rather have a quarterback who's very, very level, or would you rather have a quarterback that's very, very fiery? Because that's why Jay Cutler, for example, was always getting backlash.
100%. But Brady's the same way, except Brady's not as brash about it as Baker is. Brady's not the type of player that's going to go out in the center of the field and grab his crotch, flipping off the fans, right? But that's Baker Mayfield. And like I said, Baker Mayfield has a touch of Johnny Manziel in him. I think that's going to either he loses that here in Carolina, or he's going to be playing FCF with Johnny.
Could be. Very, very, very could be. Because, okay, so now that I'm assuming that Cam Newton is out of the picture.
Right.
Who knows with him?
Yeah, Matt Corral.
Yeah, he might come back. He might come back around. But at least he would actually give you at least some sort of leadership on that aspect as well. I mean, they're both, these quarterbacks are, Darnold and Baker Mayfield, they're not rookies. So they absolutely understand the score, pun intended. But play. Because you're absolutely right. Their offensive line, especially if if you had old Joe Thomas back on the left hand side, it would be on the plus side of mediocre.
Well, Cleveland's line isn't bad. They've got a great ground game.
So, but who do you think is going to be able to stand that? And that's what the offense is. Is it going to be more of a pocket passer style, or is it going to be more of a running type of offense?
That's where I'm confused with Carolina's move here, right? Sam Darnold is your basic stand in the pocket, see ghost, throw the ball on the ground type quarterback. Whereas Baker Mayfield is a standing, I'm running this way, I'm going that way, broken play quarterback. But you got McCaffrey, and if McCaffrey can stay healthy, they can actually do some things. I think Carolina could win upwards of 8 games this year if they can all stay healthy. The dilemma is if Baker Mayfield goes out and lays an egg, Sam Darnold goes out and lays an egg, do you really pull in Matt Corral? Is Matt Corral going to be your future already? That's where you're left in Carolina.
And how long do you stick with him before you make that move?
Right.
Let's say you start Baker Mayfield game 1. Okay, and there are going to be some growing pains, new offense, new personnel. I get it, absolutely. But he's consistent. Let's say he's 225 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions.
You can live with that.
So they just happen to lose that game by, we'll just say less than a touchdown. Fine. Are you going to stick with that for the next season, or for the next game, or the next game, or you want to say, well, let's see what our old buddy Mr. Darnold does, and let's say he puts up the same numbers.
We'll see.
What do you do there? Because you're absolutely right. Are you going to pull the trigger on that third string?
This is the dilemma, right? If you start Baker Mayfield, say he goes out, gets destroyed, loses to doesn't lose to Jacoby Brissett, but he loses facing Jacoby Brissett, right? Now you got to look at your defense. You got to look at where your offense is. You can't go back to Sam Darnold. You can't say, okay, Baker, this experiment's over. We're going to Sam Darnold. You can't do that. You're going to have to ride with Baker for at least 4 weeks. You've already lost the locker room. And right, McCaffrey is I said it last year. They should change his name from Run CMC to Can't Run CMC, because the man is running on bald tires. And he's a great talent. And if there was a way you could get him healthy to stay healthy a full season, you might have a shot. But Baker didn't do much with Nick Chubb. You know what I mean? Nick Chubb in Cleveland didn't do much. So it's a terrible position right now in Carolina, because you don't know what they're going to do, and you don't know what the smart move actually is, right? I mean, the coach is on the hot seat already.
Sure. So let me ask you something. We've been talking about this for some time now also. Is that quarterback conducive to that particular offensive style? I mean, what is Carolina designed to do? Are they designed to run?
That's the issue, right? Because Donald hasn't had a healthy running back, 2 seasons? So it's been running back by committee. They've been piecing it together. Now you got Baker Mayfield, who's not a run-first quarterback. He's proven that. He's proven that in Cleveland. He can do it periodically, but between him and Darnold, you have the 2 most interceptions in last season. So, I mean, what can you do? There's no definitive cut right answer there. And I think that's a terrible position to be in as a coach, because if you say, hey, Darnold's got the job, Baker's got to beat him out, you go into week 1 and Darnold lays an egg, now what? You go to Baker? Now if Baker lays an egg, you're still sitting in the same boat, right? I don't know the right answer there, and I don't know if there is one. Needless to say, I think this year is the year that Carolina will be picking in the top 5 next draft.
That is a possibility. That's a strong possibility, because you have one quarterback. You're absolutely right in the fact that he's kind of like your Peyton Manning type of pocket passer. But Tom Brady, of course, runs when he has to. He's not greased lightning by any stretch, but at least he knows, and he can pick and choose when he runs to be able to get that first down, things like that.
Right. He did you Gerlacher.
But anyway, moving on. Then you also have the quarterback who, I don't necessarily want to compare Lamar Jackson, for example, to a Baker Mayfield, because the athleticism is just completely different.
Right. Not even close.
But you do have somebody who can pass the ball, who is more mobile, who could move that pocket to be able to actually open up some of his receivers and things like that, even if it is a McCaffrey, in that little pressure zone. I don't know. Yeah, just by skill set, you would have to say that Baker should actually have definitely a plus.
The plus on Baker is that he can run a read option, and he gives you that threat to actually keep it and run. Right back when Cam Newton was so great was that he ran an effective run pass option, was great at the RPO, could stretch the ball out to the side of the field, and then decide, okay, I'm going to hand it off, I'm going to throw it, or I'm going to keep it. Perfect. Can Baker do that? If Baker can do that, you might catch lightning in a bottle this year if McCaffrey can stay healthy. But anyway, I'm done with Carolina. Let's go to Atlanta. Let's talk about the greatness that Atlanta has going right now. You got a quarterback battle with Marcus Mariota and the Riddler. I mean, what
Jim
do you
Carrey
do?
or Portia?
Drew Carey. Can you see Drew Carey as a Riddler? Come on now. But
Joel Schumacher did.
So Marcus Mariota brings his somewhat skill set to Atlanta this year. He was great in college. I mean, great college quarterback. Fit the Oregon, however you say it, scheme quite well, right? Ran that RPO.
I don't know. I'm trying not to drown on my coffee. Thank you very much for that one.
but, I mean, Atlanta has their entire lines in shambles, right? You may see a lot of opportunity there for new starters. I'd watch a guy by the name of Jermaine Infetti. I can't even remember how to pronounce it, but he might take that job away from McGarry. And you got Justin Schaefer pushing to overtake the job from last year's rookie Jalen Mayfield. And their line struggled last year as is, so it's not like it's going to be a stretch to see a lot of new faces up on that offensive line. And then you're going to be throwing a new quarterback behind them. So you got good receiver in Kyle Pitts. And then you've got Cordero.
So you do have that it factor with Cordero, because you've got I guess you could say running back,
tight end,
fullback, tight end, receiver.
But I mean, Atlanta's in just the same mess that Carolina's in. Does Atlanta have a shot at winning this conference or this division? No.
Well, who are their rivals within the division?
Bucks, Saints, Panthers. So I mean, you might see the Panthers and the Falcons slug it out for bottom of the basement, but I think that's all you can hope for, is to not be the last place team in this division.
So if you're looking at what your division is pretty much presenting, you're like, okay, so how are we going to be able to, who's our major rival? Okay, so we need to be able to actually focus on being able to beat our rival, within our division. And you look at what Atlanta has done, and of course Matt Ryan was there for better part of 20 years. Now he's where quarterbacks go to retire. Right. Then you of course have your running backs, your tight ends, your receivers, all their really major question marks, and then of course your offensive defensive lines.
Right, and like I said, you look up front in Atlanta, it's going to be all new faces. I think you're going to have very few veteran experience there, and it's going to be a rough ride, I think, for the Atlanta Falcons this season. I hate to say it, but I don't see them winning more than 5 games this year.
How's Cordero Patterson's throwing arm?
You know what? I saw that there's you can bet that in Vegas right now. You can bet that Cordero Patterson will throw a touchdown this season. I think that pays 4-1 or something like that. You put down $25, you win $100 if he actually does it. So it's not a bad game.
The only difference would be that he would have to throw the ball to himself. So he'd have to chuck it nice and high so we can get under it. But right. I think Mariota might have success.
So let's get to the meat of the division. Got the New Orleans Saints. Their defense got better. I mean, I don't know how. They have one of the best defenses in the league, and I don't brag on the Saints because it really pains me almost as much as it does you to actually praise the Packers. But you lose 2 of your starting safeties. You lose both of them. You lose Jenkins to retirement, and other dude signed with Lattimore signs elsewhere. I don't remember where. But somehow you find a way to pull in Tyrann Mathieu. And you have Marcus May that's still there. Now, May's going to be facing a suspension for like the first 3 or 4 games of the season, so you're going to get some little, a little drop off there. But I think Matthews is going to be phenomenal for New Orleans. I just don't know how can they lose 2 veterans and end up veteran safeties. That's your anchor, your defense in the back. They basically control your coverage and your opposition's route trees. Really is based on your safeties play. Mm-hmm. So you improve there. You improve your wide receiving core. You go out and you draft Ole from Ohio State. Michael Thomas is finally going to come back and run a couple more slants for the New Orleans Saints, and you go out and you get Landry. I mean, Saints have improved. They might actually push for the top spot in the NFC South this year. I guess it's only going to go as far as James can take him, right?
That's going to be the question. What Jameis Winston are you going to get? You're going to because he's been consistent throughout the last couple of years.
Well, he was solid last year. He was one of the top rated quarterbacks in the league until he got hurt.
Yeah, I don't know if it just finally clicked for him or whatever the case is. Like I said, once he got left Tampa and stuff like that, and maybe just kind of clicked for him, and things are just starting to maybe slow down to the point where his skill set's starting to take control of him. And you're absolutely right. So I mean, they're definitely going to be a strong team for sure. However, are you going to get the Jameis Winston that's going to throw the 5 touchdowns or the 5 interceptions?
No, I get it. And like I said, Jameis Winston's biggest problem isn't the fact that he's not talented. It isn't the fact that he's not mentally fit, can't read a defense. The issue is he plays hero role. He wants to be the one. He wants to be the reason you win the game, right? He wants to be the hero, if you will. And that's what cost him in Tampa. He never surrendered a play. He would scramble, and throw the ball up. Well, Sean Payton somehow found a way to get that out of him. And if Jameis Winston can come out and control the turnovers, control the scrambling, and hanging the ball low so it's getting bad hands for fumbles, I don't see a reason why New Orleans can't battle Tampa for that number 1 spot in the NFC South. But speaking of Tampa, I know you all been waiting. It's time. It's time. We're going to go south even further to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Welcome to the show. All right. So in Tampa, Tampa's gonna be basically looking for a new identity this year. You lose Bruce Arians, you lose, that tight end we had that, he did all right. He was okay in the league, in Gronkowski, but Tampa Bay has a tight end room now consisting of Cameron Brate, who honestly I believe starts on 26 other teams in the league. He wouldn't start for like Kansas City, and he wouldn't start for like, I don't know, San Francisco. But I definitely think he starts at 26 other teams in the league. Great hands, has good chemistry with Tom Brady. But then you got 2 basic, unproven rookies. You got Otten and Keefe. Honestly, I think you're going to see Otten as your number 2 tight end, and Keefe or Keif, however you say it, is going to be used more as a utility back, more like a fullback, just blocking, leading the way for a Leonard Fournette, a Keyshawn Vaughn, or Rashad White. But what's crazy is with the wealth of talent that they have, you still have a tight end like Cody McElroy. McElroy has proven he can catch the pass. He can run deep routes. He's not afraid to go over the middle. Someone's going to be on the outside looking in there. Not sure who it's going to be. I know Brate's secure. I know Watten's secure. So I think you're going to see a battle basically between McElroy and Keefe to see who's going to get that 3rd tight end spot. What's up, Christopher? How you doing today? I know you're a Bucs fan. You feel free to weigh in at any time. But the other battle that's really big in Tampa right now is the safety spot. You've got Antoine Winfield Jr. coming off a Pro Bowl season, one of the best blitzing safeties in the league. And we lose Jordan Whitehead. He went off and signed elsewhere. But you do have Mike Edwards. We did sign Keanu O'Neal and Logan Ryan. Ken O'Neill was a failed linebacker basically in Dallas last year. They thought they could move him into the box and just, his instincts would take over. Unfortunately, it wasn't that great of a move, which allowed the Bucs to pick up Neal this year and let him fill that safety spot possibly. What?
I'm shocked that something that Dallas didn't work out.
Yeah,
Shocked.
I don't know how you would think Dallas would do something right. But, that week 1 game is going to be nice, Dallas-Tampa. That should be probably – I'm not saying it's going to be, but it could be the crew game of the week. Just thinking. I mean, there's no other big game that week anyway.
I didn't realize that we were bringing alcohol to this show. I would have prepared accordingly.
But, with Neal's ability to play in the box, you're going to see a battle between him, Mike Edwards, and Logan Ryan. I think Logan Ryan's going to take some time away from Sean Murphy-Bunting and move out into the slot a lot more than you would think. And it's basically going to come down to Neal and Edwards, that safety spot, box safety, strong safety, whatever you want to call it. It's going to come down to one of those two taking that job. And then you got one of the best wide receiver cores in the league. And unfortunately, with a wealth of talent, you're going to lose someone. Someone's going to be outside looking in. But you've got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Justin Gage, Brashard Perriman, Grayson, Johnson, Jalen Darden, Scotty Miller. Someone's going to be left on the outside looking in. I really think your first 3 are pretty secure, right? Yes, Andy, you got a question.
Question/statement.
Okay.
So I know Godwin, for example. I know he had some injury issues. I know Mike Evans had some injury issues, things like that. Are they going to be able to actually go the whole season? Because the way Evans plays, for example, he I don't want to say reckless abandon, but I mean I think if he didn't throw himself down the field is like he did and jumps and flies and that kind of thing, he probably could survive the entirety of the season. Is that going to be an issue?
Yeah, what's funny is hamstrings are always an issue with the Bucs receiving core. I don't know why. I don't know if it's training. I don't know if it's the humidity down there. I don't know if it's it is what it is. They got to figure it out. But they're saying Godwin should be back week 1. Evans was pretty much healthy last year. He had a couple injuries, but nothing that kept him out for a prolonged period of time. The chemistry with Gage is going to have to develop over time, right? But I don't think the Bucs are going to let Gage go. So he's your number 3. You got Evans, Godwin, Gage. Now you're looking at your 4 spot. You got Perriman, Grayson, Johnson, Jalen Darden, Scotty Miller. I don't see the Bucs keeping more than 6 receivers on the depth chart, maybe 7. But someone's got to be out looking in, right?
I would say, if anything, you could probably keep Perriman for a couple of reasons. UCF.
What's funny is Perriman has good chemistry with Tom Brady. He stepped in well for them last year, caught a couple nice balls. He blocks. He's not afraid to go downfield or over the middle. So you got that option with Perriman. The real issue I think you're going to run into is with Scotty Miller and Jalen Darden. I mean, Tyler Johnson, again, he's got to prove himself. He's got to catch the ball. He made a couple crucial catches in the Super Bowl run, but last year he kind of fell off a little bit and didn't take the step that the Bucs were anticipating. Hopefully year 3 they give him the opportunity to take that step, but I think it's going to come down to Scotty and Jalen, and I don't know if Jalen makes the team this year. I know it's sad to say because he's phenomenally fast, but Scotty's fast.
So what do you do with him? Do you try to trade him and get somebing, get somebody else, or do you put him in the practice?
Right, he's practice squad eligible, but he can be picked then too.
Mm-hmm.
But Scotty Miller is a good bullet. I covered that on Cup of Ray this morning. Everyone's like, "Oh, Perriman's gone." And I don't think Perriman's out. I think Perriman stays because he's got the chemistry with Tom Brady. But you're looking at Scotty Miller, who ran bullet for a punt return or punt block or punt team, ran bullet for kickoff team. What bullet's job is to be the first man down the field and take on the blocker or make the tackle. And the Bucs lose the game in Indy if Scotty Miller isn't flying down and getting that fumble recovery on that punt. So, I mean, I really think Scotty Miller makes the team and Jalen Darden is out. So who are you talking about, Christopher? I'm not familiar with who you're talking about. So if you can,
UDFA.
yeah. So
What's a UDFA?
Undrafted free agent, meaning it's someone they picked up after the draft.
I've never heard like yeah, okay. No, but didn't you guys pick up a defensive lineman that we were talking about earlier?
We did, and we picked up one hell of a left guard too. So, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about Hakeem Nicks. Got big shoes to fill. I mean, you're replacing the likes of can't even say his name. We'll say Sue, but you're gonna have to step in and fill somewhere, right? You lose Sue, you lose JPP. You got Logan Hall in the draft. You went out and got Hakeem Nicks. Two solid potential players right there, right? Nicks is a proven veteran. If he can stay healthy, you're going to see some production out of him. If he can't stay healthy, then you're on to the next man. But
so do you remember, of course, how in Kong Sue,
there you go,
University of Nebraska, anyway, how he was like a dirty player, when he was like younger, and he kind of matured, and then he kind of sort of became, I don't want to say a consummate professional, because he still had his moments where where he would do something kind of silly, cause you 5, 10, 15 yards.
Right.
Okay. Hakeem Hicks, and they're the same position, basically the same player, just in a different way. So Sue was a little bit more active, kind of like Aaron Donald-esque, in the fact that he was gonna be a relatively high motor. He was always going to be in the backfield. Hicks does the same thing by really, like we were talking about earlier, clogging up that middle.
right.
And if he really had the old wild hair, so to speak, he can actually, he's got quick feet, he's got good hands, his upper body strength is, phenomenal. So, if by chance he wanted to, he could at any given time, especially if he's only covered by one offensive lineman, no problem. Or he can basically just get underneath and just push him straight back into the quarterback.
You think he could flex out, play outside tackle?
I don't know if he necessarily has that type of athleticism to be able to do that consistently. He of course could, but at probably right around the 330-pound mark or something like that. How long
Right.
are you gonna be able to do that?
Right.
So you keep him interior, and you might actually have a little bit more success. But
Right on. But yeah, oh, okay. He's saying the Bucs signed 2 top wide receivers in the FBS last year and led in statistics. Right on. Yeah, I'm not familiar with their names. I'm sorry. Like I said, I've been battling COVID this week, so I haven't done any real deep dive into the training camp roster or what have you. But my last thing I'm going to touch on with the Bucs is their running back core. I think this is going to be the identity of the Bucs offense this year. Is you're going to see them run the ball a lot more than they did last season. I think Lenny's going to touch the ball anywhere between 15 to 20 times. And they're really going to run the pass through, or run their offense through the run, and take their shots when they can. I don't think you're going to see the greatest show on turf, if you will, type offense from the Bucs this season. It just doesn't fit what they have right now.
okay,
I mean, seriously, you look at it. You've got new left tackle, not new left tackle. You've got new left guard. You got new right guard. So you're going to have to establish something to keep them from going in the pass defense. And I think the Bucs are to come out and try to punch you in the mouth first few series of the game, and then it'll open it up quite a bit for the passing game as the season wears on.
That's what I was saying, because at the end of the day, you still have Tom Brady.
Right. No, 100%. But I think you're going to see I think you're going to see Todd Bowles really put his fingerprint on this thumbprint, whatever you want to call it, on this team. And I think they're going to run the ball a lot more than they have in the past. The Bucs they won a whole game without running the ball. I don't know if you remember, they played a certain team up in Chicago where they ran the ball 1 or 3 times, and one of them was a down to, down the ball. So I just really think you're going to see the Bucs run the ball a lot more, and they're going to build their offense through the run.
So you're gonna load up with wide receivers and tight ends and slots and all this other stuff, and then run the ball.
You don't load up. I mean, they've had Chris Godwin, they've had Mike Evans, they went out and got Russell Gage, right? But they lose Gronkowski. And that's a huge security blanket for Tom Brady. You lose Ali Marpet, who's one of the best pass blocking guards in the league. And you have a running back that is set to spin. I mean, you have Leonard Fournette that's ready to run the ball. You have Rashad White, who's ready to run the ball. You have Keyshawn Vaughn that needs to prove himself to make this roster this season. And you have a Gio Bernard, who's a good swing running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm not saying they're not going to pass the ball. I'm just saying you're not going to see the 1st and 10 and you throw a 40-yard deep pass.
So percentage-wise, what are we thinking?
60-40 pass.
Okay.
I mean, you run the ball to set up the pass, and in the pass they pass the ball to set up the run. I think you're just going to flip that this year.
Sure.
What?
Okay, I can see that. But I mean, who's going to be their major rival within the division besides New Orleans?
Oh, I think that's it. I really do. I think that's all you worry about if you're Tampa. You worry about beating New Orleans. If you can split with New Orleans this year, if you can come out the gate this season at 500, you go 2-2 the first 4 games. I think you're ecstatic. You go 1-3. I still think you're in good position to at least run the South. I think you're on for a 12-13 win season this year. But that's all I got on the NFC South, sir.
So realistically speaking, I'm thinking probably 10 at most wins. I don't necessarily see them taking the division only because everybody's getting older. And you have a couple of teams out there that I think are actually going to surprise a lot of people. I'm not saying, Baker Mayfield and all them. I'm not saying they're going to have, 16 wins, nothing like that. But I think they're probably going to end up being a little bit better than what we talked about.
I really strongly disagree, and I hate disagreeing with you so much. But anyway, I show me that this division doesn't come down to New Orleans, Tampa.
It probably absolutely will. However, you do have 2 other teams within that division that could make some noise, or
you could make an all-star
victory at the most inopportune time. Look at Washington. Look at they
could. Anybody can pull a rabbit out of a hat every now and then. But look, you could take Carolina and Atlanta and merge an all-star team, and I still don't think they have the ability to compete with New Orleans or Tampa. I don't think it's there.
Just quarterback play? Are you talking about
anywhere? Whole team. I don't think it's there. They don't have the defense, and they don't have the firepower on offense to compete with either of the teams. If Jameis Winston catches lightning this year, the Saints are going to be a tough team to beat.
And they got the defense to be able to.
The Saints have one of the best defenses in the league.
But then you also have Tampa Bay with their defense, their defensive additions that actually. Look, I'm not saying that their defense is going to take them to the Super Bowl, but defense in Tampa has actually been quite successful for them in the past.
Absolutely, and I think the defense in Tampa this year has improved from last year, and I think top 10 defense in the league this year, 15, the lowest. But they're going to be tested the first 4 games of the season. And that's what it's going to come down to. If the Bucs can escape the first 4 games of the season with a minimum 1 win, I think they're going to be in a good position to take the league this year. Maybe not the whole league, but they'll definitely be in the playoffs.
I think if Gronkowski was actually there, or at least if he, especially those first 4 games, it would certainly give them a more of a positive outcome for sure. But
100%.
You're right. The familiarity is just so between Brady, of course, and him. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where I think I think you're putting a few too many eggs within that basket, being in Tampa and stuff like that. And I think because of the fact that age is starting to become an issue, and you have a whole bunch of new people coming in, I think they might get underneath or behind that 8 ball a little bit too much, that they're not going to be able to actually catch up at the end.
Right on.
So 10, 11 wins.
And 11 wins, you can't be upset with it.
No, that's true.
So, I mean, if I'm a Bucs fan, you're telling me the lowest I can expect is 10, 11 wins. I'm all right with that.
Sure, but if you're used to 12, 13, 14,
No, I get it. But,
it's like the Bulls of the 90s Bulls,
right.
Chicago Bulls, of course. It's like, wait a minute. Did they seriously just lose?
Oh, I get it. And that's how I felt last year. Like we were almost lost to the Jets. So anything can happen. So we ran out of time. We didn't get to discuss the whole coaches aspect of the difference between a dime defense and a nickel defense. But I think we really do need to bring that segment. We need to, throw out a coach's corner and break down some of the nuances of the game for people that may not understand what someone means when they say they're going into a 12 personnel or they're running a tackle over or dime defenses in or nickel defense or things like that. So I think something we should incorporate to the show. Maybe we can go forward with that next week.
Sounds good.
All right, sir. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you for an hour. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Please like, follow, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and now Spotify. So feel free to check us out. Share with your friends.
Don't forget all the Twitchers and Twitters.
We will see you all next week. Hopefully we get the rest of the guys with us. Brian's on kid duty, Mike's baseball, Jerry's on kid duty. So hopefully we see you all next week. Hopefully we get the whole crew back together and actually throw something out there for you. Until next week, we'll see you then.
See you then. Go Bears.